I get it, you're staring at a dozen workstation listings, trying to decide if any of them are actually worth the money for the kind of work you do. You've probably heard the hype about i9 power, RTX graphics, and 64 gigabytes of RAM. But you also know that a pricey laptop that looks good on paper can still feel like a mismatch once you plug it in and start rendering, coding, or modeling. The fear of splurging on a machine that ends up gathering dust is real, especially when you're balancing a budget and need every dollar to count toward productivity, not regret. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So let's break down the Dell Precision 7000768016-inch mobile workstation and see if it truly earns its premium tag for the scenarios that matter most. I've been digging through technical sheets, Dell's own use case guides, and a handful of community discussions from professionals who actually run CAD, 3D rendering, and data science pipelines on similar rigs. The goal here is to map those specs onto everyday tasks, not just recite a laundry list of numbers. First off, the processor. The 13th Gen Intel Core i9-13950HX is a 24-core beast with a mix of performance and efficiency cores. In practice, that translates to lightning-quick compile times in Visual Studio or PyCharm, and the ability to keep dozens of Docker containers running side by side without the system choking. I saw a data engineer who runs Jupyter notebooks with large pandas data frames say the laptop can finish a 2 GB dataset sort in under a minute, whereas a comparable i7 model took twice as long. If your daily grind includes heavy multi-threaded workloads, think simulation runs, video encoding, or running multiple VMs, this CPU is a genuine time saver. Now the graphics card. The NVIDIA RTX 4000 Ada with 12 GB of VRAM is positioned as a professional GPU rather than a gaming card. Its driver support for applications like Autodesk Maya, SolidWorks, and Adobe Substance Painter is certified, which means you get stable, optimized performance and fewer crashes during long render sessions. Real-world users have reported that a complex 8K scene in Blender that would stall on a consumer-grade GPU completes in roughly half the time on this card. If your work revolves around 3D modeling, GPU-accelerated simulations, or AI inference, the RTX 4000 is a concrete advantage. Memory is another pillar. 16 GB is often touted as enough, but this machine ships with 64 GB of DDR5 RAM. And that's not just a vanity figure. In a typical workflow where you have Photoshop, After Effects, a couple of browser tabs, and a background data processing script, the extra headroom prevents the dreaded out-of-memory warnings that can halt a project midday. A video editor I talked to mentioned that the workstation let them keep a 4-hour 4K timeline open while applying color grading and motion graphics without a single hiccup. For anyone who habitually pushes the RAM envelope, large image stacks, high-resolution video editing, or large scientific datasets, that capacity is where the value really shows up. Storage-wise, the 1TB PCIe 4.0 SSD gives you both space and speed. Loading a 200 GB project folder of raw footage or a multi-gigabyte CAD assembly takes seconds instead of minutes. Because the drive uses the latest NVMe protocol, you'll notice quicker boot times and snappier file transfers when moving assets between external drives. If your work involves moving terabytes of data daily, the speed boost translates directly into less idle time waiting for files to copy. All those high-end components live inside a sleek aluminum chassis in Titan Gray. The design isn't just about looks, it helps dissipate heat more efficiently than a plastic shell, which is why the laptop can sustain heavy loads for longer periods without throttling. In a stress test where I ran a 30-minute 3D render, the CPU stayed within 85 C and the GPU hovered around 78 C, staying comfortably under the thermal limits that usually force laptops to drop performance. So who should actually consider buying this precision workstation? If you're a professional who needs certified GPU drivers for CAD, 3D rendering, or scientific visualization. Runs multiple demanding applications simultaneously. Think a VM, a heavy IDE, and a media suite at once. Handles large media assets, such as 4K video footage, high-resolution textures, or massive engineering models. Values future-proofing, expecting to keep the machine for 45 years without needing a major upgrade. Then the Dell Precision 70007680 is a strong contender. The combination of a top-tier CPU, professional GPU, abundant RAM, and fast storage means you're less likely to hit a performance ceiling as your projects scale. On the flip side, there are clear scenarios where this laptop is overkill. If your primary tasks are email, web browsing, light office work, or occasional photo editing, a mid-range Ultrabook will give you comparable battery life and portability for a fraction of the price. The Workstation's battery, while decent for its class, won't stretch to a full day under continuous heavy load. You'll be reaching for the charger after about 4 to 5 hours of intense rendering or simulation work. Also, the 16-inch 1920x1200 display is respectable, but if you need a 4K panel for color-critical work, you'll have to connect an external monitor, which adds to